welcome to Bethel Today. I'm Janice Stevenson, your hostess, and today we're going to be speaking with Richard Straiton, who is our Democratic Selectman. Forgot to mention that we are the show of the Bethel Democratic Party, and today we're going to be talking about some of the different things that are going on in the town, and of course we'll be mentioning the upcoming election. Hi Richie, good to have you here again.
Well, thank you, Janice, for being here this evening.
Oh. So I have a list. So I'm just going to start right in, and I'll kind of mention things, and you kind of talk about what's going on with them, okay? So the first thing I want to just bring up is the Eureka Lake water tank. So tell me about that.
All right. Well, as you know, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, there was a referendum in town that, to sell the water company, and that failed. So the PUC has gone forth and did a capital improvement plan.
Remind me what PUC stands for again?
Public Utilities Commission.
Okay, great, thanks.
The voters instructed us to, they wanted to keep the water department in our facilities. So we had this capital improvement plan done. They came up with all the things that need to be done in town to improve the water system. Prior to that, though, there was to build a new water tank for storage at the Eureka Lake. And that's taken several years, probably 6 to 7 years to finally get to be. It's going to start construction this week. They're going to cut trees down and do the site work up there at the Eureka Lake.
Where is that location?
That's actually in Danbury. The town.
Oh, is this is the one where Danbury
had a lot of problems with us building the tank there, and we had to redesign it and move it, and it ended up costing the town more money to do that because we had to redesign it. There's extra work involved in it. Existing water lines have to be moved. Blasting has to be done. So there's a lot more site work that has raised the cost of that job. So that is starting and finally, and that's going to improve the fire protection for downtown and wherever there's water lines. Actually, it also helps people in the country because the firemen can go back to a fire hydrant near the edge of town and fill up on water and respond to the fire. And then one of the biggest things also, it's going to improve the water quality and quantity to expand the Clark Park business park. So without that extra water storage, the town is really limited to the amount of building that could be done, especially in the Clark Park, because if you have a large factory or warehouse building, you need to have sprinklers and for that. So that's one of the things that's really exciting and finally happening after many years.
Yeah, really. How long do you think that I mean, and of course, I know that things always happen and stuff never occurs exactly in the amount of time that's predicted, but how long do they think it'll take for this project to be done?
The project will take about a year to do. Unfortunately, because they're getting started in the fall, they're going to have to stop for the winter because you can't pour concrete and things like that in the middle of the winter. So they'll get a lot of the site work or most of the site work done this fall. And then in April, when the construction season opens again, they will actually start building the tank. It's scheduled to be completed in September of next year.
Well, that's pretty neat. So it's essentially like prep work, winter off, and then one building season, really.
Correct.
Oh, that's pretty neat. Pretty good. Anything else about that?
No, it's just that we're happy to see it finally underway.
Yeah, really. We went through a lot with that. So let's talk about then the next thing. So we're pretty much talking about utility stuff today. Okay. So the next thing that I have on my list is the Hoyts Hill Water Booster Station. Now, where is that?
Okay, that's on the corner of Governor's Lane up there. Off of Hoyts Hill.
Yes.
And that is a very high elevation, so there's no water pressure there. So the water actually gravitates gravity to a water storage tank up there, and then it's pumped into the system that feeds Governor Lanes and a few of those other streets up there. That plant is probably 50, 60 years old, and needs to be replaced.
Okay.
So that is under the design right now. What we're trying to do on a PUC is look at the infrastructure of the utilities there and foresee any future problems.
Sure.
So we don't want the system to fail and then all of a sudden we have to do all this planning. So we are doing the planning now. They're at 90% completion on the plans. Actually, there's a meeting with planning and zoning because there'll be, right now everything is underground up there, and they'll be constructing a little building on top of the existing structure. And there's sometimes there's problems when you have people go in confined spaces. So some of this machinery will be above ground in a little building. So that helps.
That'll make the maintenance more efficient.
Easier and less dangerous. Because when you go into confined space, you have to have an extra man with you. Sometimes you have to be on a rope harness in case something happens to a person, so they can get you out. But
but if it's above ground, it just makes it a lot safer.
Right.
So I have a question. So the pump or the booster station that's there is about 60 years old or so. So with building the new one, how long typically when you, because I imagine that it is a matter, like any infrastructure, that things don't last forever. How long typically would the new one last, do you think? Well, what do you figure with these things?
Well, with maintenance and there's multiple pumps, so one doesn't run at one time. So we should get another 50 years out of the station again.
Okay. So 50 years was what was predicted beforehand. So we're actually potentially on borrowed time.
Yes, right, And it's a different type of system. The system there is now for people who live out in the country who have a pump and tank. That's what type of system it is there now. What we're going to do is put a constant flow pumps in, so there won't be any storage tank there. Storage tank is generally made out of galvanized and they rot out.
So is that more like, speaking of living in the country with because we used to have the old storage system, and I think that what I have now in my house, there's like a pressurized thing, but it's not a massive storage unit the way that the old well and tank was done.
Right.
And it's the same kind of updated technology on a grander scale, as
No,
it were?
it's a little bit different. That's a pressurized tank, as where the older tanks were generally a galvanized tank, and you would have to put air in it to it. But just imagine a tank a quarter size of this room, which is a large tank.
That is big.
That supplies those homes up there.
So a quarter of this room would be like, wouldn't you say, like 12 by 12 or 14 by 14?
Yeah,
something
probably.
like that?
Something like
big.
that. Yeah, it's a big tank.
Right.
So that will eliminate. Again, it's new technology, and these pumps are designed to work that way. And then, in case of a fire, there's a large pump that is a booster pump that would pump, like 1,500 gallons per minute in case of a fire that would kick in. So it's all, and that gets back to another pumping station that has just been completed, the pumping station on South Street. And that's a very similar structure where it has multiple pumps in it, and it's they're constant flow pumps, and they have a fire booster pump in there in case there's a fire that, it really kicks in a lot of water for the fire department to have.
Sure.
And that's just been completed. It's online, operating, and how that station will work in the future. We're going to be eliminating the reservoirs because the water in the reservoirs are of poor quality. So then we will be using our wells for most of our water production. So that pump will pump water to, we basically have two systems. The downtown system, and over by the school area is another system. One is Eureka Lake and the other is Chestnut Reservoir.
Got it.
So they're two separate systems. So this pumping station on South Street will pump water to the Chestnut side of the town.
So now I have a sort of an off-the-wall question, but so there's the regular pumps that deal with just regular day-to-day usage, and then there's an extra large pump for when there's a fire emergency. How does that pump know to turn on?
by flow.
So when they hit one of the fire hydrants and the flow starts really being heavy duty,
Correct.
then that one just automatically
Exactly,
kicks
yeah.
in. That's kind of interesting.
Flow
That's
and
neat.
pressure. So when you open up a large fire hydrant, it drops the pressure significantly.
Right.
And between the flow and the pressure drop, it will kick those larger pumps on.
Okay.
Yeah. Technology today.
I know that's.
Someone doesn't have to go over like they used to
Well, that's
do
what I
years ago
wondered.
and throw a switch.
Yeah. I wondered about that. Neat stuff. Okay, still talking about water, but now we're going to talk about water mains. So we've got one pumping station online already. When will the Hoyts Hill one, when is it projected to come online?
Well, that's under design right now.
Oh, right. That's
so
right.
again, it'll be probably bid in spring, and construction should be the following summer. So hopefully by next fall, that pumping station would be online also.
Next fall, 2016?
2016.
Okay.
Because what these pumping stations, a lot of them depends on the actual design. The one on South Street was pre-made in a factory and delivered like some of the homes that are coming on a trailer. You just set it
I
in.
know.
And so it depends on the actual construction. So some of that work might be pre-done off-site, and they just come in and install it. So
That's kind of cool. That's neat.
yeah.
Okay, so kind of then combining with that, then the next up topic is the water main replacement. So why don't you tell me a little bit about which streets are getting that and
Okay.
what's going on with that? And
Well, part of
those
the
things.
capital improvement, the company had designated old water mains. We have some water mains that are original when the reservoirs were built back in 1889 and 1908. So those lines are over 100 years old. And so they worked up a schedule. They looked at the maintenance of the water lines, how often certain ones have broken, and so we're dealing with some of the bad ones first. And then some roads had very small water lines, like a 2-inch water line to feed several houses, and that just doesn't
That's
cut
really-
it. And they didn't have any water, any fire protection in those areas. So, and some of them are just small and corroded mains now that we're replacing. So we've started with, they did Highland Avenue.
okay,
That one's complete and it's charged, and they're actually hooking up the water services now.
cool.
And then there was a cross connection down Andrews Street to
Okay.
Greenwood Avenue. That one's complete and passed inspection. They're currently working down in Sydney Lane.
Where's that?
That's the bottom of Milwaukee Avenue.
Okay,
It's a little dead-end street.
okay, yes.
But the new development that is going to be
Right, I know where you're talking about.
in
It's
the
where
old
they've
gravel
cleared.
bank.
Yes, yes.
That Toll Brothers is doing. I forget the name right now, but
Yeah,
that will be cross-connected with that, so you have better water flow
Sure.
in all directions. We like to have water flowing everywhere. It cuts down on sediment that's in the pipes and dead water.
Sure.
So the more through streets we have, it's like a street. You don't want a dead-end street. You don't want a dead-end water main.
So you have all of that, but that's really kind of interesting.
So it's all
as well.
interconnected in one way. That way, their water flows all directions.
So, so some of these had 2-inch pipes. I keep kind of picturing what that would look like.
Mm-hmm.
How big are the pipes that are going in?
They're 8-inch.
So that's
So you're going
that's
from that
quite a
big
distance. Yeah.
to
Wow.
that big.
And then the 8-inch ones. Then these are also areas because I've also noticed that fire hydrants have gone in some places
Yes,
as well.
it's all new infrastructure. The
So-
fire
and-
hydrants
and the hydrants are on those are connected to those mains
to
as
the
well.
new mains,
Okay.
because the old
Yes,
mains will
yes.
be abandoned because
Oh, yeah.
you don't want them to be break in the future.
Exactly.
Because that works into the road program. You know, we were told that certain roads were going to be done, so we wanted to get the new water mains into those roads before they pave them,
Before they
because
do
you
the
don't want to
major
dig them
pave.
up again.
Exactly, exactly.
So on those streets that they're replacing the water mains, they are putting new water services from the main to the curbs.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, if anything ever did happen in the street, 99% of them are new. Some houses have newer water services,
course.
but some go back to the early 1900s. Some of those houses are pretty old up through there. So
Yep.
they're analyzing all those and making them. The other street that we're doing is Mountain Orchard Road.
Okay.
That's off of Nashville.
Okay.
It's a short dead-end road. That road has a 2-inch water main. So we're going to be increasing that one to 6. There are not a lot of houses down on that road, so you don't want too large a water main.
Sure.
But the 6-inch main allows us to still install a fire hydrant at the end of the street, and that serves 2 purposes: naturally, fire protection,
Exactly.
and also for a blow-off that when they purge the pipes every year, they go down and they flush the hydrants, and people probably see water running down the street.
Right, right.
And what happens is where there's a hydrant, it's generally like a pocket, so dirt settles in that. So they open the hydrant, and when the water comes out, it's generally rusty color.
To start with, yes.
So that's why they flush hydrants every year.
Right. No, that makes absolute sense. I do that with my furnace about every week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially in the winter.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Yep, same idea, to keep it flush.
And again, part of the issue with that is it's because it will be the line will actually be a dead end, and the hydrant will be at the end, and that makes sure that you get to flush the whole system
exactly.
through. That's kind of neat.
Gee, you want a job in PUC?
I actually would do better on PUC than like Board of Finance. I could handle that, the utilities I can cope with. So then the next thing we have on our handy dandy little list is the demolition of the Hickok tank. That's the old one that was up on top of the hill.
Right, right.
And it's gone?
It is gone. It is gone. That was the new one that we're building on Eureka is 750 gallons. That was a 1,000,003 gallon water tank. And when it was designed and first installed, it never met the requirements needed to operate the water system in the town.
Wow.
It was an engineering nightmare.
So it was really, really huge.
Right.
And it was like up on this hill.
Right, but not high enough on the hill.
Not high enough on the hill. Oh my gosh. I had no idea that was the issue.
That tank has probably been there 30 plus years. I have to date myself here a little bit.
That's
30, 40 years. And it was, it's 40 years old, so there might have been some different type of ways of utilizing that tank, but it would be costly. The tank is already 40 years old, so with the new tank going up at Eureka, we decided to remove that tank, and it was really an eyesore there in town.
Right.
So it's gone. Actually, the property abuts the open space land that we bought from the developer up there. Mm-hmm. So it'll be part of the passive recreational area up there. So that's good.
Nice. That's a good thing to do with it, I think.
And also there was a small building it was off of Reservoir Street, and I'm not 100% sure of the name of the street. It might be Reservoir Drive or something like that. It's a little
tiny. Was it green, like a green?
Right.
building?
There's a little island in front of the road.
Yes. It is. It is Reservoir and Reservoir. I think.
Yeah. There was a little gray building there, and that was one of the original gatehouses for the water system, because Eureka Reservoir was up on the mountain behind it. Mm-hmm. So that was in disrepair also. It had no functional use to the water system anymore. So that was raised and is seeded over and is lawn now. So.
Oh, how nice. Nice. Of course, does that mean somebody has to mow it? Nah, probably not very often.
Well, probably the neighbor. The neighbors have always been good to keep the bushes trimmed and stuff around it.
Right, like that.
So now their front lawn is bigger.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. So that's good. So then the next thing is the new East Swamp well field. So now we've talked about holding tanks or pressure tanks, mm-hmm. and lines and hydrants, and this is the new water coming in.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So talk to me about this.
Well, again, because we want to eliminate the surface water from the reservoirs, we need to develop more water that comes mm-hmm. out of the ground. And it's always been the idea that behind the police station, behind the old police station and the soccer fields, there's a whole swampy area. And we always felt that would be our next water aquifer.
Sure.
So we've been doing some testing there, and it's not quite panning out like we had hoped for. There's rock not too deep in the ground there. And where the town gets their water from is in gravel packed wells.
Right.
So if the ledge is high, we don't have a big basin to draw from. So that's not working out. They're doing some other surveys to see if they can find some other pockets where a deeper well could be installed. And when we get to the next issue, I'll describe that. But again, we want to look for new areas that we can develop wells for future water use. And that will bring us to the next, the Maple Avenue
wells. Okay.
That's currently where we get our wells, our water from right now. There are 2 wells there. Those wells were put in the late 60s.
Okay.
They've been rehabbed several times, and they're coming to the end of their life. Because we draw so much water into those wells, and we bring silt into that. So we have to pull the pumps out, clean the wells, and
like backwash them.
Right, exactly, just like a swimming pool. So we have to do that. So it's getting near the end of the life. So we have applied to the state public health department to drill 2 new wells there. We know that there is a great aquifer there.
Okay.
They'll move them away from the existing wells, so we won't get into that same situation. Those wells are approximately 160, 180 feet deep.
Okay.
So that's that large basin that I talked about that we can draw that water from.
Right.
So when we found out that the East Swamp wells weren't so great, we were looking into developing the wells at
starting
Maple
with those, because you know that the aquifer is there, you've got the depth
Correct,
that you need,
right.
so that's an area we know will work.
Yeah.
Where are other places, since the East Swamp, is that what it was?
Yeah, East Swamp.
If that's not going to fly, so where
well, we'll have
or
to.
We don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
Okay.
You know, that was our best hope at the time.
Right.
They did some test wells there, and they thought that was, going to be sufficient, rather. And now we were looking into it in more depth.
Right.
Where we do more testing. And
that's where they realize that the ledge is too high.
So, maybe we can...
And we're sure it's not just a boulder the size of a Volkswagen, right?
Right. We've been there.
Yeah, exactly. Been there, done that. That was something
So
different.
we're still investigating that area because the part of the infrastructure is close by that we could hook into.
Right.
Now, could be there other areas in town we would have to research that.
Yeah, exactly. So we have really buzzed through a lot of time as well as several things. So I'm going to kind of list some things because we've only got a couple minutes. So we have infiltration inflow study, and you're going to tell me which one you want to talk about. Sewer allocation study. Then we have South Street water booster pump station. Oh, we already talked about that one.
That one already, yeah.
Roads. We have roads still being
done
on a completely different topic. Well, sort of, except that you have roads that are being done, and you wanted to get water mains before roads. So what roads are?
They're currently working on Nashville Extension. Whippoorwill is going to be on the list. Plum trees. They're going to be paving probably within the next couple of weeks there. It's Whippoorwill to Gretchen to Spring Hill.
Okay.
And if there's time left over, they'll do some more roads.
You have Canaan on the list.
Yeah, Canaan's on that. That's on the Nashville and Nashville Extension. So, and a couple of those roads are full depth reclamation. Some are mill and some are overlays. So there's depending on the situation of the current roads is how they treat them. The crew's been out there doing drainage and replacing catch basins.
Sure.
So the road project is moving along.
Good.
The winter we had took the life out of some of the other roads, so there's probably more roads that are going to be added to the
Well,
list.
that's going to happen if we're going to have severe winters. I know that I think I had Matt on one time and had him talking about the fact that even you do even the brand new roads, you have a really nasty winter.
It really cut the life of them down.
They can do a lot of them. We have 2 minutes left. I want to just touch on something again that's a little different, is ordinances.
Ordinances. I don't think this program is going to air before we have the meeting on the ordinance, but this coming Tuesday, this Board of Selectmen is having a hearing on some ordinances that need to be talked about and hopefully passed in town. There's noise, there's overnight parking, there's some tax benefits for
Veterans, that's right. You mentioned
relief has come down from the state, so we need to approve that. Snow and debris. Sometimes people plow snow out into the middle of the road, rake their leaves out into the middle of the road, and the town has no recourse. So these ordinances give the town a little leverage to
make sure that
to
people behave
deter
in a
the people from doing
way.
that.
Yes. Let me see. Oh, and then last but certainly not least, I understand that there's an election coming up.
Yes, there is an election coming up, November 3rd.
Okay.
I want to thank the people for the opportunity to represent them. I enjoy the job. I especially enjoy PUC. And I just ask everybody, please, give us our vote, your vote on November 3rd.
And the entire Democratic ticket. So it's Matt Knickerbocker for first Selectman. You're running for Selectman.
Yes.
And then we have full slate for the Board of Education, Board of Finance, Police Commission,
Zoning.
Board of Planning and Zoning. Do we have zoning?
Zoning Board of Appeals.
Zoning Board of Appeals.
Treasurer.
Treasurer. Who's running for treasurer?
Mrs. Beatty.
Cool. Very cool. Neat.
So it'll be an interesting.
Very good. And row B, are we row B again?
No, we're row A. Yeah, row A.
We're row A. Time for us to finish up. I'm Janice Stevenson. This is Bethel Today. And I've been speaking with our selectman, our Democratic selectman, Richard Straiton. And again, the election is November 3rd. Polls open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Get your absentee ballots, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.